Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here, drinking beer and play a game, and today we are going to be reviewing one of our Patreon requests with Toilet in Wonderland.
Yes, this was brought to us by the Todd Howard Stan himself, so thank you. I guess.
You know, I thought Lady in a Leotard with a Gun, or whatever the name of that one was interesting.
Fun fact, this was like a really popular kind of meme game around like the mid-2010s, and that completely passed me by. I guess since I wasn't big into Let's Play culture, I just never knew about this existing.
You weren't living online like you are these days.
Oh, God, was it a better life. Take me back.
But would you say this is the start of where it all went bad?
Wait, for me or for the internet? Because, no.
For the internet.
No. No, it was already way bad before then.
Todd, we love you. Thanks for your support. But damn you.
And enjoy the review. Released in 2010, this was made by Team Nonsense. It was made from RPG Maker, and it was entered as part of the annual VIP RPG Red and White 2010 Festival. So, yeah, this was a game where you play as the character of Mira, who, when she attempts to go to the toilet with severe constipation, she mysteriously finds herself in a side of a surreal world inhabited by strange beings. And yeah, basically you have to find your way out of there, learn a little bit about yourself, by the way, and collect laxatives. Bride's basically got a little bit of everything.
I mean, this is the inverse of your problem, Jim.
That is true. I would never be the star of this game.
Let's just dive into the rest of it.
Yeah.
The graphics. You're going to hear me say this multiple times throughout this review, but this is such a weird goddamn game. And as if the premise wasn't odd enough, you'll go through and at first you think, oh, this looks like an RPG Maker game. And hey, there's even like kind of good details in some of these environments. But very soon into the game, you come across this character. Its name is MJ. It's Michael Jackson. And you're going to go, that's really weird. And that is the feeling I got going through 90% of this game. Some of the sprites are straight rip-offs, like from Super Mario or even Kirby. But then you get to things like this, and it's just really poorly pulled Google images that are photoshopped in there. And for some reason, one of the main characters, this crab, you see over and over again, and he looks absolutely terrible. I know this game was going for weird, and they achieved that. The only reason it's not a complete failure is, as I said, each environment that you have to travel to and world you have to travel to, there's some decent detail. They don't all look terrible, but the characters themselves, they drove me crazy. As you'll hear throughout the rest of this review, Jim kind of embraced the weirdness a little more than I did. So when it comes to scores, I gave it a 4, Jim gave it a 5. I'm going to start you right off. You're going to need 3 beers. This game, you have to be drunk to even enjoy a little bit.
All right, the sound. Again, it's mainly just a lot of stolen stuff. Stolen songs from other video games, stolen voice samples, stolen meme samples, stolen sound effects. It's an RPG Maker game. It kind of is what it is. But here's the thing. I mean, they picked some good stuff, and it all really fit the theme of the game. And I'm just kind of a sucker for how well they just kind of integrated everything together. Like, I never thought I would be legitimately scared of, like, the ghost house theme from Super Mario World, but here we are. So, yeah. Brian gave it a 4, and I gave it a 5. I just kind of really appreciate what it did with what it had. And when it comes to beer, I'll give it 2 beers. One for, well, all being stolen, but one happy one for making me poop my pants.
The control. As I said earlier, this is an RPG Maker game, and for a game like this, you know the control scheme is going to be very simple, which it is. This game, first and foremost, is just about exploration, so all you're going to be doing is walking around. Whether you use a controller or your keypad, it really doesn't matter. The moving is fine. It's the very limited amount of times you have to deal with attacks in this game that it can somehow get a little janky. You have a lot of actions that Jim will get to in a minute in gameplay, but the only one that really matters the most is punch, and the game will kind of auto default to punch if you need to punch something. Otherwise, you do need to go in, have it as your set action, and then go up and hit things. And there's like a weird little delay, is all I'm going to say. You have these mini games that really, it makes it really obvious as you're doing it when you have to like kill all the creatures in this little cave. But otherwise, the game is just... I hate to keep saying it. It's just so odd. And the only time you really need to execute any form of true control, it kind of messes it up. So we both gave it 4s. Is it manageable? Absolutely. But is it good? No, it is not. So when it comes to beer, tag on another 3. You're already getting a 6er from me alone. So be ready to get drunk, boys.
The gameplay. Where do I even begin? So the basic gameplay structure of this game is trial and error. All you're going to be doing is trial and error. The world that you're traveling through isn't actually all that big. You'll be doing a good amount of backtracking, but it's actually relatively small. There's only a handful of main areas that you're going to be going to that only maybe have 2 or 3 screens tops. The weird thing is going to be just trying to figure out what the hell you have to do. And you're just going to be stumbling on stuff to do. You're going to just be like, oh, I'll try to interact with this, and then you might unlock something. You'll be like, you might punch a guy, and then he'll be dead, but then you leave the room and come back, and he's back. Here's the biggest problem I have with the game. I'm just going to jump to this right away. There is so much wasted time of nothingness in this game. There are going to be so many events that happen where you go, oh, something kind of happened here. Maybe I have to come back. Maybe I have to trigger something to like retrieve something from here. And you don't. It's just things happen for the sake of happening.
And Jim, I want to interrupt you. To that point, there's only, I'd say, 3 or 4 times in this game where you can actually die. And all it really is just pattern recognition of where your enemies are going or where they're going to appear. Once you get past that, there's really no surprises to this game.
But then there's even randomness in where you're going to die, like that giant fist that'll just smash you in the one area with the strong guys. So you don't even have that. And it's one of those games where once you know what to do, you're just going to know what to do every time and blow through the game, which is fine. So from what Brian was talking about in Control, how you have all these different actions you can do, including punch. But guess what? All of these actions are useless. They do absolutely nothing. They trigger absolutely nothing. You will use them absolutely never. They're just there, and your first time playing, you're going to be like, oh, well, let me try doing this action and this thing. And you're just going to keep trying until you realize, wait, do these do anything ever? And the answer is no. And then there's all these there's so many weird ways you die where you go, oh, that was stupid. But then there's also so many weird ways that you waste your time. Like, there's this giant face that you can randomly talk to of a girl, and you start running to the Kirby music. And you just sit there and you're like, oh, like maybe I have to wait here until it ends. And it never ends. Oh, I triggered something different. Now it looks kind of different. Maybe now I have to wait now. And you just wait and nothing ever happens. Like, there's a Jabba the Hutt thing that you punch and his mouth opens. It's like, maybe I can climb in there, but you can't. Nothing happens. You get stuck in this little world with the game that a rabbit puts you in, and then you punch your way out. And then he's like, oh, good job. And nothing happens. There's just so much nothing happens in this freaking game. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. And the worst part of it is I kind of respect what it's going for. Like, there is a lot of weird for the sake of weird. But in there, it kind of tries to weave this, like, story that you can kind of make your own. So at its core, it's probably dumb shit, nothing. But you could also, like, people have built so much lore around it, too, that I don't know what to make of it. It's almost you get out of it what you put into it. It's just so bizarre. I mean, obviously, the standout section is Mario is logged in. So if you know that meme, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't know. And, like, every world, any main area you go to feels completely different from the next, which is both good and bad. Because it's good in the sense that you at least get a little bit of variety in what you have to figure out what to do, but it's also bad because it just kind of feels like someone different worked on every single thing. It's bizarre. So with that all being said, Brian gave it a 3 and I gave it a 4. I like what it's going for, but there's just so much time wasting. It just made me so infinitely frustrated. I mean, it's a game you're supposed to be able to beat in 1 or 2 hours, and my first playthrough lasted like 5. Because it was just me trying every single friggin' action on everything for no reason. So, beer-wise, I'll give it 3. 1 for the waste of time, 2 for the waste of actions, and 3 for me just being stupid with these types of games.
The originality is probably the area where Jim and I differ the most. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to feel like this is an original experience playing this game. As Jim alluded to, all the weirdness, all the randomness, what I talked about, and the graphics, and the shit you're going to see. The game is definitely going to throw you for a loop. I guess the only reason I was a little more critical is they just pre-used a lot of sprites and things from other games, Google Images, music. So technically, a lot of what you're seeing, you've seen before in one way or another. The area where the originality shines is the, I guess, the premise, and if you want to call it the backstory of some of the characters, you can throw that in there. Like Jim said, this game is going for something, and to say it loosely ties into Alice in Wonderland and the idea that you're just searching for these toilets, okay, kind of ties into that. But the characters, they do try to make reference to it, so in a weird way, you could even argue the overall arching story is an original as well. But like Jim said, you will truly play through this game and go, oh, that's an experience I've never had. And it will leave you feeling some sort of way. You're going to be frustrated. In some cases, maybe you'll laugh. I was more frustrated than able to laugh through this game. So when it came to scores, I gave it a 6 and Jim gave it an 8. He really saw the value in all the oddness and randomness that's thrown your way. I think, honestly, I was just more annoyed by the time I was done with it. So when it comes to beer, you know what? I'm going to add 2 more beers to it. Of any area I can give this game credit, the originality is the one area.
Replayability. So there's no multiplayer. So no points there, and you get 3 endings. So how do you get the 3 endings? Well, basically you have the bad ending, which is when you don't, get your constipation down to 0. You get the normal ending when you get your constipation down to 0, and basically, spoiler real quick, I guess, your friends will live at the end if you do that. And then for the perfect ending is if you do what's called the Speckless Odyssey, which is when you go through the game and you get every single item in the game, and you do visit every single tomb. It's a list of 8 or 9 challenges that you have to do within the game itself. Yeah, I guess there's at least that. When I first beat it, I got the bad ending, and then I went back with the guide to get the good ending, and I didn't care about the speckless. Screw that by then. You get 3 endings out of it, same gameplay loop every time, so we gave it 5s. Maybe we're being generous, but I don't know, at least it gives you a couple reasons to go back. And when it comes to beer, I'll just give it 2 beers for really just 2 real endings, because the perfect ending isn't that much different than the good one.
So overall, to say this game is an experience, it sure is. And we've done some bad games before. This one is just, it tips the weird scale in a way you can't really explain. And I can't honestly say we would recommend trying to. Try it for yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we would never be able to convey just how, it is the whole time. It's a game that I can't say is really good, but it's a game that I do at least respect for what it was trying to go for. And it was an RPG Maker game put in for a competition, so you can't expect too much, but yeah, it's kind of cool in its own weird, bad way.
Yeah, as I said multiple times throughout this review, the weirdness turned me off. I didn't think it was funny or clever. It was just kind of what are you doing? It felt like someone in middle school made this. So when it came to scores, I gave it a 3. Jim gave it a 4. Once again, this is one I will absolutely never go back to. When we combined all of our scores together, it's a 4.1, which is only a little bit shy of what we scored Body Harvest. So that's a weird thing. When I saw it, I said, I feel like it should be lower. But Jim loves his weirdness, so he gave this game more points than it probably...
I would go back to this before Body Harvest, so I am fine with that stuff.
Don't you dare.
I would much rather go back to this.
So, Todd Howard, thank you, bud. We really appreciate giving us this recommendation, I guess.
It was an experience.
It sure was. And you know what? We love it. Thank you again for the support, and I hope you enjoyed the review. Make sure, comment below if you've ever played this game. Please, once again, this isn't a situation where it's so bad you should try it. Don't try it, because if you try it, you're going to go, why the hell did I try this?
It's free. Try it.
Don't try it.
Go to the Memories of Fear forum to play the translated patch. Just try it.
Jim just wants you to suffer like he did.
That's only a half truth.
With that, we want to say have a good night, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.
When it comes to beer pairing, you know I had to give such a weird game a really weird beer, so I decided to go with the Rogue Beard Beer. This may seem like a joke, but Rogue actually made a beer with the beard hair from their now retired head brewer John Mayer. That is just goddamn disgusting. There's no sense to it. There's no reason that people should be drinking this. Yet, it's actually pretty popular. Now, I like plenty of Rogue stuff. This is just goddamn odd. So if you're going to subject yourself to this game, you might as well grab a whole bunch of these beers. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.